Cheated on my husband. I want to make things right. I never thought I would be on the sending end of something like this, but here I am. I have been married for 11 years. My husband is an amazing man and we have one boy and one girl. Our marriage has had its ups and downs just like any other marriage. 2 years ago, I went through a deep depression. I got laid off and my mother passed away. At the time, my husband was working 14 to 18 hours a day just to keep food on the table. It took me about 6 months before I tried to get help and went to therapy. I resented my husband a lot during this time. Part of the reason was because he was working too much and I was left to take care of the children while dealing with my emotional issues. Also, he made it seem like my depression was something I could just turn on and off like a light bulb. He said he cared for me, but I never felt it during this time. He made me feel very alone. To make matters worse, I suspected my husband of cheating with a woman from his job. He would text her at all times of the day and he stayed very close with his phone. I managed to check his phone one day, but I could not find anything pointing to a physical relationship. It was just mostly friendly stuff about work and family. I told my husband that I wanted to meet her, but he wouldn't let me. He said that he should have friends just like I did. This made me feel worse and I kept having a hunch that he was sleeping with this woman. After many months of therapy and meds, I started to feel better. I started to get out of the house more and talk to my old friends more. My husband stayed the same. He was still an amazing husband and father. He worked his butt off, but he still talked to that woman. When I looked back on the days during depression, I felt betrayed and I just felt that he cheated on me. I started to lose weight and become more active. I felt alive again. Guys at the gym would hit on me and I would catch glares from guys at the store. This made my husband jealous, but I didn't care. I knew that I hadn't done anything wrong and I know I was unhappy with his friendship with the woman at work. My husband has an old friend named Matt. He recently moved from Michigan to where we live. He found a job down here that he wanted to take. My husband was very excited that he was moving down here since that was his old high school friend. We met Matt at the airport and took him to dinner. I have to admit that he was quite a charmer. I figured that anyone that hung out with my husband in high school must have been a dork. I'm not putting my husband down, but he was really a nerd back in those days. Matt was actually the polar opposite of him. Anyway, Matt was pretty hot when I met him. To make matters worse, he complimented me and told me I was beautiful. Matt began work and began to hang out with my husband on weekends since he didn't have many friends. We also become friends and I would talk to him when he came to the house. He would flirt a lot with me, but I always shut him down. There was one day when Matt come over for a few hours since they were cleaning the carpet at his apartment. The kids were with my mother and me and my husband were supposed to go out to dinner. Since Matt had no place to go, he was going to tag along. Before we could leave, my husband got called into work. One of the other leads was sick, so he had to fill in. Me and Matt were already up, so we just chatted on the couch. We must have talked for around 2 hours. He kept complimenting me and making me feel good. In fact, it was years since a man made me feel as good as he did. We got closer and closer that night and he eventually kissed me. I did not push him away, although I wish I would have. We ended up sleeping together there in our living room. It was like we were both caught up in the moment and didn't realize what was happening. That moment didn't end until recently. I've been seeing Matt off and on for the past 8 months. I've had enough respect for my family that we never again sleep together in our home. I would either go to his apartment or we would get a hotel. I justified my infidelity because I fooled myself into thinking that my husband was really cheating on me with that other woman. A couple of weeks ago, my husband was out at a club with Matt. I don't know the exact details, but somehow, my husband went through his phone and found text messages from me as well as dirty pictures. My husband got in a fight with Matt and left him at the club. He came home and confronted me and I denied everything. The first thing that came to mind was to lie, since I never set out to hurt him. My husband left and called Matt. Matt told him every single detail about our relationship. He told him everything down to the day it started. At that point, I had no choice but to come clean about what I did. Now it's too late. My husband has moved out and wants a divorce. I've been sitting here replaying this in my head and I really feel like crap. I've been falling back into my depression and I feel that I have no place to turn. He doesn't want to reconcile and doesn't want counseling. He just wants to divorce. My kids don't understand what's going on yet, but soon they will find out. What can I tell my husband to convince him to give our marriage another chance? I apologized for cheating and lying, but he acts like he doesn't care. How could it be that he can just turn on a dime and walk out on us after 11 years of marriage? I've humbled myself and I would do absolutely anything to have him back. I realize now that I had a good thing at home and I should have never cheated. He has agreed to meet me on Tuesday morning for lunch and we can talk then. What should I say to him? I know that if I can get him to understand that I'm truly sorry, I should have a chance to win him back. Comments: if people were talking to your husband, they'd likely be advising to push ahead with the divorce and to let you go. You may not find many sympathetic voices, especially amongst those who have been on the receiving end of this type of behavior. So, you incorrectly accuse him of cheating, sleep with his friend, carry on an affair for 8 months, allow pictures of yourself to be taken. When confronted, lie. and it's the lies that do the most damage. So, what's left to salvage here? Why should he give you another chance? What's in it for him? Sorry doesn't cut it. You don't understand how he can walk out after the ultimate betrayal. Apology doesn't cut it. Own it. Words don't matter, especially if you somewhat place blame on him or I didn't know what was happening right. You knew a penis was going to enter your body. Let him go. You can't control this, don't even try. Let him have some time to think. It's all in his control now. Sorry you're going through this. It's a hard lesson to learn. OP responds. Yes, it's very hard. What I meant was that I didn't realize what effect this would have on my marriage. I was just caught up in the emotions and feeling good and wanted at the time. I've always had self-esteem issues, but that's still no excuse for what happened. We both have invested a lot in this marriage. I know that deep down, as much as he thinks he hates me, I know he still loves me. We have kids and a home together. That should be worth something. I've been open and submissive about everything. I don't see how he can walk away from us without at least giving me another chance, at least for his kids' sake. I told him that I didn't like that he talked to her so much, but he just flipped it on me and told me that I'm jealous. As for Matt, I've spoken to him once since this happened, and that was to tell him that he is not welcome here anymore. He said that he was sorry for telling, but he felt that he couldn't betray his friend any longer. Comments. I think you need to get to the root of the problem. You've been dealing with the fact that your husband is cheating. I'll say he is cheating because you point out some red flags also as a wife, you know, which is why you are sinking into the depression. I'm not justifying your cheating, I'm just pointing out that you can't just ignore all the signs and move on with life if you feel your spouse was cheating. I would address this with him, not in the way of, well, you cheated, so did I. Rather, I would tell him why you felt he cheated and how that affected you. This does not justify the cheating, but it can help him deal with then why distanced yourself. Apologize and tell him you are willing to work on the marriage. If he was cheating, I hope he can have some mercy on you, being that he brought in the problems. If he wasn't cheating, he should have put your mind at ease. But now you are both in a big problem and need to work together for the sake of the kids. The ex-friend isn't really the issue here, I think. Yes, it was a double betrayal, but the vows were yours. You see, if you'd been remorseful, you wouldn't have let things continue, and you would have confessed yourself and begged for forgiveness. But you didn't, and that makes things a whole lot harder. For some men, and women too, I guess, an infidelity is a deal breaker and it's over. I don't know how to predict if this is the case for your husband. Before it happens, I'm not sure anyone can. People often don't behave how they thought they would. Oh, and if you want to have any hope of reconciliation, do not say I deserve. You don't. You don't deserve a hearing, a second chance, more, better. Whatever. You took your marriage and stabbed it to death. If he gives you a second chance, or even deigns to listen to what you have to say, it's a favor to you that he chooses to give you, not because you deserve it. Don't ask what you do deserve, you won't like the responses. And don't play the stay together for the kids either. He deserves more than that, and so do they. What might help, and it's to help him get over it, not to keep him with you, is for your total honesty, absolute acceptance that it was your fault, your problem, and that he did not deserve to be treated this way, and that you realize the lying was wrong and counterproductive. If he chooses to listen to you, and you can't make him, and if he subsequently chooses not to press on with the divorce instantly, then it's your job to be the best spouse that ever existed. Not a doormat, but a partner, with absolute fidelity, openness, and honesty, so that he never has any reason to doubt you ever again. Although he still will, because some things you don't get over. If you do have a relationship going forwards, it will have to be a new one, rebuilt. You'll never get the old one back, it's gone. OP responds, fair enough, although I do feel as if I deserve another chance. I just feel that we both invested too much just to walk away from it all. If he gave me another chance and we couldn't get it to work, then I could accept that. I've been open about everything since it was exposed. If I had knew that Matt was going to tell everything, I would have done so first. At least my husband would have heard it from me, and that may have made things easier. It is hurting. I haven't been able to eat or sleep well. If it wasn't for my kids, I don't know how I could hold it together. I'm not asking for my husband to pity me. I just wish he could be here to support me emotionally. I think we could support each other to get through this. Sometime later. Today was a really horrible day for me. My husband sent me a text this morning and said that he doesn't want to see me on tomorrow. He says that he's just not ready to meet and he is still hurting over what I did. I can understand how he feels, and I do know I hurt him. He just doesn't seem to understand that that is tearing me up just as much as him, if not more. I feel so guilty, and I feel like my life has been torn apart. I have begged and pleaded with him all day, and he has just been ignoring my calls and responding on his own time throughout the day. I really don't know what I should do at this point. I have a friend that suggests that I go to his job on tomorrow to talk to him. She even says that she would go with me. I really like the idea of seeing him, but I don't want him to be pissed at me even more. She says that this would show him how far I'm willing to go to say I'm sorry. Even if I wanted to dress nice and try to hit on him on the job, I doubt I could pull it off. I really just want to sit down and talk to him. I want to tell him how I feel and how I'm sorry I hurt him. I've told him these things over the phone and through the text, but he isn't getting the message. I thought that if we talked in person, he would truly understand how much he means to me and how much we need him. The problem is not on my husband. It's not that I didn't see him as a good husband. It's that I never experienced depression before. He has never experienced either and has always had it easy with keeping his emotions under control. He said he understood what I was going through, but I never felt that he understood. He thought that I could just turn it on at the flip of switch and want to go out, have fun, and enjoy life. He didn't understand that I felt lonely and stressed out over even the smallest things. That's what made me resent him. The reason why I say Matt made me feel good is because of all the attention he showed up. I was strong at first, but I eventually gave in. My husband was too caught up in the routine and we were not reminding each other how much we loved one another. That's still no excuse. I now know that I should have focused my attention on my husband instead of trying to seek affection elsewhere. I'm crying for many reasons. First, I feel guilty about what I did. I know this hurt him even though that was not my original intention. I'm crying because the marriage we spent years building came down in a matter of minutes. I'm trying to rebuild, but he won't even give me a chance. So, the message I'm getting around is that I should just let my marriage slip away. Well, I was raised that if you love someone, you should fight for them. What kind of woman would I be if I just gave him everything he wanted in a divorce without any sort of struggle? That would make it seem like I wanted to divorce and that he's been living a lie. I owe him more than that. His life has not been a lie. Now I don't want to downplay what I did because yes, it's the biggest betrayal possible. I feel like crap right now and I regret so many things. I love him too much to let him go like this. I feel like I should be fighting for my marriage for my sake and my children's. I was tempted to go to his job earlier and my girlfriend even showed up ready to go. We decided against it because I want to give him space and I don't want to cause a scene on his job. I had also tempted him to direct him to my confession, but I've also changed my mind on that. For some reason, more than half of the people here feel that I'm not entitled to any sort of reconciliation. If he were to come here, it would do more harm than good. Also, reading some of the stuff I wrote earlier makes me ashamed. Although that's how I felt before, things need to be different if I'm hoping to wrong this right. I don't think he can handle the full truth at this point, so it seems my focus should be on trying to mend our relationship. He still hasn't asked me why I did it, even though I'm sure he is wondering. How would he feel if I told him how things really happened and how he could have avoided this? All he needs to know is that I love him and I would do anything to make this marriage work. If I wasn't going everything to please my husband and make him feel special, I guess I could understand why he would step outside the marriage. It hurts, but it's the truth. It's not that I'm giving him a pass, it's just that I feel that I would have never given if I had everything I needed in our marriage. I haven't gone into too many details, but there are a lot of things I was unhappy with in our marriage. Sleeping together seemed to always be when he felt like it and I was never satisfied. I could literally come out the shower and he would act as if I was fully clothed. I could put on something new and he would act as if he didn't even notice. Now factor in me being lonely and feeling depressed. Factor in this new man coming around and constantly flirting with me. I should have been stronger and really wish I could have focused that energy into repairing my marriage. If I could have did that, I wouldn't even be here. My husband could have avoided all of this by catering to my needs more and showing me more attention. Even then, I still had no right to cheat. At first, I didn't understand why it happened, but now I'm starting to understand that I cheated because I was missing something. I needed a void to be filled. It's still no excuse, but that's how I feel. If I do end up reconciling with my husband, should I tell him why I'm unhappy and tell him about the things in our marriage that pushed me away? I understand that this may be too soon to tell him why I wasn't happy, but would this ever be a good idea, or should I just be totally submissive and cooperative in order to win him back? Some of you think I will always be a cheater. Well, let me tell you that I've already learned my lesson. I already know that I was wrong and I know that it would never happen again. I've already promised myself that when we get back together, he will have my heart and I will never cheat on him again. If my husband happened to stumble upon this site, then so be it. Since I've been here, the popular opinion has been that we should break up and move on. Everyone is entitled to second chance, and that includes me. Why would I ever direct him to my confession story? If I wanted the best chance to mend things and get back together, it's not doing more harm than good, it's protecting his feelings and letting him think on his own. In the end, we made a commitment to each other and he needs to realize that the flame is not entirely gone yet. Also, I spoke with my husband tomorrow. We are going to meet tomorrow afternoon for lunch. I plan on pouring out my heart to him and telling everything, including the good and the bad. I won't hold anything back and I will tell him the real reasons why I slept with Matt. I hope he accepts it, as I promised myself that I won't sugarcoat anything. The last update was OP getting rejected for R. What an ending. Story 2. Before I write my issue, please know that I live a very productive life. I am an artist that enjoys painting and sells work. I am a mom of 2 beautiful girls and on my own. I focus on myself and live a very good life. However, I am writing out of just pure sadness. For a few years my husband has been withdrawing from me. I would ask him why, but he would never tell me. Sadly, the times he tried to explain, I didn't understand him or the full extent. I think he somewhat went through a midlife crisis about 7 months ago, and it was at that time he told me he didn't have the energy to deal with me anymore and told me about all my issues. How his were not as bad as mine because I came from such a dysfunctional family. Which I do. I did come in with a lot of baggage, family issues. He came from a family where the parents never expressed any emotion, not even an I love you. So, I tried everything and went to counseling for myself to change. For myself and him, then he didn't like that because I was getting stronger and sticking up for myself more. He even admitted that he has seen change, but he does not know if he has the energy to stick it out to see if I can do it, since my change had started causing problems, and he agreed to go to marriage counseling. I stopped going to counseling for myself. He only went to 2 marriage counseling sessions and ended it. Then we had an opportunity to attend some marriage classes, and my husband made fun of it every night we went. But then would tell me, "What are you complaining about? I'm trying," which wasn't really trying in my view. After all that, I went back to the counselor for help for myself, and as each week went on, the issues became more and more intense. We have been living separate lives in the same house for the last couple of months. He has officially moved to the couch. During this time 7 months ago, he had a major transition in his job. He has also been working with a woman for quite some time. I was friends with this lady and we had family vacations together. Once May hit, I never heard anything from her again. She never called me. If I called here and there or texted, she'd respond, but nothing else. He swears that he is not having an affair with her, but I think there is something unhealthy in the mix of this somehow. I personally don't believe he is sleeping with her. I have checked his clothes, no perfume, no strange receipts. The only thing strange was that he has a password on his phone. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. My gut doesn't feel that he is. It's just an unhealthy relationship. Last month my husband told me he had a letter for me that was 8 pages long. This really started to drive me crazy because day by day things got worse and worse. He wanted to give me this letter in another 6 months out, then he moved it up to January. I asked, since things were so bad, to give it to me now because I didn't think it was fair for him to hang this over my head. And at that point January was only 3 weeks away. What was going to drastically change? So, he did, and it was really hard to read, and I realized I could not live with this anymore. He wanted to live a separate life in the same house for another year. Our house is not that big. So he has been living on the couch. I face this every day and he ignores me as much as he can every day. Day in and day out, and it has worn on me too much to the point I asked him to leave within the next 6 weeks. I told him that if he wanted to try to rebuild the relationship, he would have to go to marriage counseling, sleep in the same bed, and make genuine efforts to work on things and learn how to communicate better. I am just as bad at communicating as he is. I admit it. So once that got worked out, completely out of the blue, totally out of the blue, a guy from high school found me on Facebook. I knew his wife in high school, but not him as well. They were high school sweethearts and got married soon after high school. College. So, I thought he was just saying hello and all that. Told him to tell his wife I said hi, etc. But then he continued to flatter me. I have not had kind words said to me for well over a year. And we have become friends, and he talks about how he wants me and all that. And to my surprise, which I guess should not have been a surprise, I am pretty vulnerable. I have been straight with him, that our conversations must stay platonic, and that this all stays platonic. I have to admit though, I appreciate the flattery and the fact that he tells me how beautiful I am. In fact, I love it, and I don't want it to end because I am terribly lonely. However, with what my husband has done to me with his co-worker, 2 wrongs do not make a right, and so I certainly feel guilty. But I still enjoy this very much, and he seems so kind. But he's probably a jerk. He is separating from his wife. Neither of us have filed any paperwork to this regard. So I know this is wrong, but it has been incredibly difficult since I have been so lonely, have not been intimate with anybody for 8 months. Or told I'm beautiful, etc. I have turned to friends regarding this, and of course they tell me to stop. I have one friend that totally understands why I am having such a hard time, but she continues to be blunt with me. I didn't realize how much I missed that until this happened so unexpectedly. I know at the end of the day this isn't right and probably not good for me, but I'm human. But now that I think my husband, being incredibly stubborn, will likely file for divorce in a year because I put up some boundaries. And so, I am going to be this lonely for another full year. I am a very busy person and live a full life in my own right. I have great support networks, but at the end of the day I really just miss the friendship of a guy. And the beauty of all that comes with an intimate relationship. I feel like this has been robbed from me under my feet. It is sad and terrible. And I am really struggling with this other issue now. The one thing that holds me back from filing is that we are both Christians. Not that we are perfect, as you can see, but if I can avoid a divorce and work things out, I do feel I need to give him a chance. I feel I have a responsibility to give him the chance. He has not demonstrated that to present though, which yes, I should really think about. I have lived with this for so long and I have been working this out with my counselor. It has been difficult to really see for myself. Like a thick fog, and it is now I am starting to recognize the emotional abuse that I have been under. Even just minor things where I would just cater to him because he is a very stubborn man, just to keep the peace and keep him happy. But now I've totally shaken that old system and it has been a rude awakening. An eye-opener. He'll ignore me for hours. I get out of the house and live my life, but it is difficult to come home to that day in and day out. I have been in touch with my local pastors who have gone over Matt with me, and I've done all that, and I've even asked him to go the pastor to talk with me and he flat out refuses. So, in the Christian sense, I have done everything I could and I don't believe that God will hold it against me if I do file. There is also the fear of being a single parent, as well as the fact that God hates divorce. I grew up with parents divorced and it was so difficult for me. I don't want to put my children through it, but I don't want my daughters seeing how he treats me, so they don't end up with men like that too. It's a mess. I do have an attorney and I have talked to him about filing the separation paperwork. I live in California. Apparently it does not matter who files. It will not put a person in a disadvantage if one files first. So, I do have all that sorted. It's just a matter of him moving out now. He's trying to work out a way to get a proper apartment. I had suggested a studio apartment that we could switch off and be cheaper, but he wants to do it this way. I did give him a time limit and I think I will give him the papers then. The affair to determine will be difficult. My attorney told me that even if I tapped his phones and all that, it would not be allowed in the court, but he suggested it so I could have peace of mind. I could be totally off base, of course, but if anything, I think it is more of an emotional affair than a physical one. Just so everyone knows this, I've only been talking to this guy for about 5 days maybe. It was certainly something that has taken me by surprise and not what I was looking for. I thought that after this marriage ends that I would never get married again, but then when this guy flattered me, it gave me hope that I can have a good life beyond this. But I will make a decision to stop it. That is something completely within my control. I have read those books on the love languages. I have tried to do everything with my husband's love language and he has through the years rejected it every time. I am not as organized as he is and as hard as I have tried through the years. He takes my spontaneous, sometimes disorganized nature as not loving him well. I have tried and have now given up. It doesn't seem to make any difference. He thinks his way of doing things is the only correct way. He is very stubborn and unwilling to flex. In the midst of that, I have flexed too much for him and something in me are gone and needs to be rebirthed. It's not that I need a man to have a better life, because with my goals and interests that keeps me afloat. I live a very full life in that regard. I just miss having a good relationship. Somebody to share life with. If I am still attractive, when I'm ready again I will find somebody that will treat me better. Well, we talked last week and I told him that he needed to move out. He asked for 3 months and I told him that was not a reasonable time frame unless he wanted to work things out. There is a family event mid-Jan, so I asked him to leave after that point. He said he thinks he can work things out to leave in Feb. So, at that time my plan was to give him the separation papers. I will still stay at the house and he will still be just down the road to see kids and drive to activities and whatnot. Since he will have to have a lease for a year, he wants to give the separation a year, which is fine with me. But if things go absent without leave, then I will file for divorce sooner. I gave him a list of things he would have to do in order to re-establish a relationship with me. So far, he has told me he's not interested in doing any of that. So, I think by summertime, I will have a more definite picture as to where things will end up, but I do think if I at least see how things go until the summer, I will have a better idea of how it will end up and I will feel that I have done everything I could. We've chatted about all that. He will give me a check each month for groceries and school stuff. He will take care of both households' rent, car payments, all other bills. We'll see, but that should all be in the paperwork, correct? I haven't gotten into that much detail yet. I recently became an insurance agent and I work at an insurance co part-time. I love it, but I need to work full-time to make it really work. So I have been looking into several childcare options. I have a degree. Thanks for all the info on the legal stuff. I know I have to be careful trusting his word regarding the financials. I am not blind there. My comment. You guys like that last story? Tell me what you think about stories from a woman's point of view. Comment down below, sub and bell, and let me go make some food.